You are listening to the Thoughts from a Page podcast, which is a member of the Evergreen Podcasts Network. My name is Cindy Burnett, and I love to talk about books with anyone and everyone. While listening to my podcast, you will hear author interviews, behind-the-scenes conversations about various aspects of the publishing world, theme discussions with other book lovers, and more. For more book recommendations and a complete list of all of my interviews, check out my website, thoughtsfromapage.com, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Thoughts From a Page. In 2022, I would love for you to join my Patreon group. I offer at least 2 bonus episodes a month and a monthly advanced read and pre-publication author chat. For those on Facebook, I host a special Patreon Facebook group where we all chat books. Thanks so much to those who already participate, and I hope you will consider joining us. Today, I am chatting with Kerrie Hansler, co-founder of Sweet Reads Box, a Canadian monthly book subscription service that recently launched in the United States. Sweet Reads Box sent me a sample box before our conversation so I would understand what all the hubbub was about, and I cannot wait to gift friends a box at the holidays. I am an avid supporter of books and reading, and also companies that strive to widen the reach of various books and support reading. And Sweet Reads Box does just that. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kerrie. And now for a quick break. For the last year, I have been focusing more on my health and eating habits. In connection with that, I have started drinking AG1 in the morning. When I started drinking AG1 daily, I could feel a real difference in my health and energy levels. That is because AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. I recommend AG1 to all of my family and friends because the company has a team of doctors and scientists. It is tested for 950 contaminants and is NSF certified for sport. It is formulated based on the latest science, and it maintains high quality standards. Thanks AG1 for sponsoring my show. AG1 is a supplement I trust to provide the support my body needs daily. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/thoughtsfromapage. That's drinkag1.com/thoughtsfromapage. Check it out. And now back to my show. Welcome, Kerrie. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Cindy. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here too, because this is the first subscription box interview that I will have done. And I just love the box that I received that included Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting and all sorts of goodies. So I can't wait to talk about my particular box, but also just all about Sweet Reads Box and everything that's involved with it.
Amazing. Me too.
So you are the co-founder of Sweet Reads Box. Can you tell me about that? How it works, how you ship, how people can buy them, just the whole shebang?
Absolutely. So it started because I was looking for a gift for my husband to purchase for me for my birthday. So I wanted something that would arrive at the door that I didn't need any thought about, and I could just sit down and enjoy it. I looked and I found other book subscription boxes. So we started in 2017, less than are on the market now, but different ones as well. And so I couldn't find one that included like a drink and a sweet. I just wanted to have it all together. So on a road trip, actually, with my kids sleeping in the back seat, I pitched the idea to Mark and said, I think we should do this. We both love to read. He's an accountant, so brings a different skill set than I do. And this is sort of how we started. Just out of a passion, thought that this would be a fun idea. And it's sort of grown from there. And yeah.
And you're in Canada. So it started in Canada, but you've recently launched in the US as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we started in Canada and focused on Canada. We ship Canada Post in Canada and love that it reaches every corner of Canada. We're a big country and we wanted people in the far north as well as east and west to be able to read and subscribe. So we started with that and tested the market that way. And then we found a number of, American readers were really excited about the box. Were asking us questions if we could ship, if we could do this. And so I love following rules. So I wanted to make sure we did it really correctly and worked through customs and whatnot so that we're able to ship to the United States and not worry about any delays going across the border. And our US subscribers have been so enthusiastic and are really enjoying finding out new companies and perhaps different reads. And sometimes, as you mentioned in our conversation, different book covers than would be available in the United States.
Yes. So for those that are listening, when I got Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting, it had the UK cover versus the US cover, which is also the Canadian cover. And so it's interesting because that book particularly has a different title in the UK. So in Canada, it has the same title as the US book, but it has a different cover. So I thought that was so interesting. And I was thrilled to pieces to have that cover as well as the one I have here.
Absolutely. And I love that too. We have both covers of Every Summer After that we used. And I have such particular taste about covers, and it's exciting to have both of them, but it's also exciting to see what the differences are and what publishers and authors think different countries will find appealing.
Well, covers are one of the number one things that I always talk about. I am very particular as well. So it's interesting to see what covers look like in different countries and why, but also just to see what resonates with people.
Absolutely. There's certainly been a trend towards covers that are much more cartoonish or, bright and show off a side of the novel that I think sometimes isn't actually what the novel's about. I'm thinking about lessons in chemistry. I was really surprised by the cover because the cover I saw when I was reading an advanced copy was not the cover that ended up being the final cover. So it must be an interesting journey for the publishers and authors to come up with that.
And there's been so much backlash about that cover. And backlash may be a strong word, but there's been a lot of negative chatter about that cover. The US one. I don't think the UK one is too bad. Did Canada have the same one as the US cover?
I believe so. The bright orange was sort of
Yes.
the drawing. Yeah, I didn't feel like that suited the novel. And, even the first looks at the movie that's going to be coming out, it's a different, my thoughts on what the cover could be fit more with maybe what the movie. So maybe the movie cover will be the one we love.
Exactly. Though, like I said, I don't mind the UK cover. I feel like it still probably doesn't completely capture the story, but it does better than the US and Canadian cover.
Absolutely.
So when you launched initially in 2017, did you launch just as a subscription service?
Yes, that's correct. So we started with a monthly subscription and, we're really excited about that. And then we were reading so many novels that we saw all of these novels that we couldn't include in the monthly subscription when you're narrowing down to just one. And one novel that you think will have universal appeal to a variety of readers, is often rich in characters and storyline. But then there's lots of other novels out there that you just want to showcase and, for me, curate a box around. So we began with our limited edition boxes, I believe not until about 2019. And we started offering our Christmas box first. And then we began adding in others. And we featured a wide variety. Our thriller boxes are very popular, as well as in the summertime, beach reads. It's just one of my favorite things to curate, usually in the middle of winter, and get super excited for, reading on a dock or a deck or a lawn or, if you're really lucky, on the sand.
Well, you and I discussed this ahead of time as well, but I think we have very similar reading tastes because as I was looking through all the boxes, I'm like, oh, I love that book, or oh, I've spoken to that author. And you were saying the same thing, that I had chatted with a lot of the authors that are books included in your subscription service. So I was happy to see that we share similar tastes.
Absolutely. Yes. It's so great to see. And especially now that we've started doing Instagram lives with our authors for our monthly boxes, it's amazing to see and hear, podcasts of like authors that I have chatted with in an Instagram live and talking with those authors about their process and their novels. And it's just so amazing to me, the process that they go through in order to get their novel, published and out there. And then for us to curate the items, to hear back from an author that they loved the items connected to their novel is just so exciting. It just feels so good to see it come to life and that they see that connection as well.
Do you send the author the book box that involves their book?
Yes, we do. As long as, the publisher and the publicist, if that's something that's easy to do. Some of the authors live in different areas than, they're publishing in whatnot. But so far, yes, we've been able to send a copy to authors and absolutely love hearing back. It's so fun to talk to them about those books. And we try to send it to a publisher, and we offer them also a box if they want one for their family as well.
Oh, that's so fun. Do you just get pitched constantly books that publishers and authors want you to include in a subscription box or in one of your gift boxes?
I don't know that we get as many direct pitches. We do get some, absolutely. Certainly publicists that are looking for a subscription box feature. But I find more so what we get is boxes and boxes of books at our doorstep, which is probably my favorite part because it is so exciting to see what's coming up. But we really need to work with our publishers to get them far enough in advance that we can read and select and curate. Certainly, the last 2 years, supply chain challenges have really affected our ability to order enough of the items that we would like to include. And sometimes, or quite often, actually, now we're trying to custom make items as well to help with that supply chain. We had a box that was due to go out today, and we're waiting on one item. And so, it's so frustrating for our subscribers to have to wait. And I get that. But unfortunately, we are at the mercy of shipping, which is still a challenging endeavor.
Well, and even backing up from the shipping, just all of the supply chain issues, kind of from the ground up, it just seems like everything is taking so much longer than it used to.
Absolutely. Last November, we had to pull a book at the last minute because the publisher found out it wouldn't be printed in time. We always use freshly new released books so that our subscribers, a lot of them, are such avid readers. They're reading so many books a month. We want them to get a box and not already have the book. So we're trying to get out ahead of that. But then, I felt so bad for the author and the publisher because we weren't able to use it. We had already picked a novel for the month that it was, the rescheduled month for it to release. So still recommend lots of books that way that we aren't able to put in. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's a challenge I never thought I would have to deal with when I started this business, but perhaps that was naive of me.
Well, who could predict a pandemic and knowing what supply chain issues even really mean? I feel like we just talk about so many different things than we used to. It's kind of crazy.
It is. Yes. Who would have thought there'd be paper shortages? That's something that never crossed my mind.
Exactly. How far out do you select a book and how many in a row do you have? So say it's January. How far out do you have your choices done?
We try to have them done 4 to 6 months out, but sometimes that isn't a possibility. Sometimes we can't get enough advanced reading copies in time. Sometimes there's delays, books get moved around. In an ideal world, it would be 6 months out, but I find we often are working 3 to 4 months out for the novel choice. And then that backtracks to selecting the items, which the moment we have a novel and as we're reading, we're taking notes all the time about what items could go with it. Certainly because we always include coffee, tea, hot chocolate, or in the warm months, a cold drink. We're always looking at what are the characters drinking? What are they eating? What are they doing? Where are they going? To sort of put those connections together.
So you've picked a book for May, whatever that book is going to be, and you say, okay, this book is May. We think these 5 or 6 items would be great to go with it. Then you begin trying to source those items.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. And that is so fun. It's such a fun part of the process. We begin sourcing items that would go together, that would enrich the story, that we could envision someone not only sitting down and enjoying while they're reading, but also something that they could use after that are going to remind them of a book that they loved. So for Rules for Commuting, we created the bento box to be included because all of the characters eat on the train. In fact, eating on the train and the mishap that happens is how they get drawn together. So just loved focusing that box, which I know you will be able to showcase, around the storyline and that idea of commuting and, making sure that we've got the London Rail images correct and that we're not using the underground images and making sure the color schemes are correct. So it's a really fun process and really creative, and try to make sure that our readers aren't getting a whole bunch of the same thing so that over, a 6 or 12 month period, they're not seeing duplicates of any items or too many of a certain item. I think we'd all love a candle in each box, but maybe not. Or maybe we'd really love socks in each box, but maybe we wouldn't at all. So trying to meet that together, there's a lot that goes into the process for sure.
Do you keep a big chart that kind of says, okay, in January we did this, in February we did this, for our specialty boxes we did this, so that you don't have that kind of overlap you're describing?
I keep a big spreadsheet. A chart sounds like a great idea. I'm such a visual person, and I actually don't love spreadsheets. My husband, the accountant, does. But the spreadsheets are really helpful because we also have to calculate, number of items and costs and a whole bunch of things that go into it. So yeah, a chart sounds great, but it's a spreadsheet.
I'm such a visual person as well, but the nice thing about a spreadsheet is you can search.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so you can go right in and be like candle or socks, and then you can be like, oh, okay, we've already done that 3 times this year. Maybe we'll wait a little longer on the socks or the candle.
Exactly.
So what about picking the books themselves? All of these books arrive to you and you are working your way through them. And do you usually know, and do you and Mark both read each book and decide, okay, this is going to be it? Do you have disagreements? How does all of that work? I'm completely fascinated by it.
Absolutely. So I would say yes and no. It would depend on the month and it will depend on the book selection. So sometimes we've read 3 or 4 books that all are great contenders. And then that's sort of when it goes into, a dueling match about which one will end up in the box. In some months, it's really clear what the front runner is. I also enlist my parents and friends to read books to get other perspectives. So it's pretty fun that way to sort of get a few people to give their thoughts on a novel. And sometimes, especially if it's a really difficult topic and, perhaps one that, might be offensive or it might be, too much for certain readers, that's something that I find really helpful to get other opinions on. Different topics affect people differently.
Absolutely. And that is an interesting thought that I hadn't thought about. With the tougher topics, you do want to make sure you have a sense for how it's going to impact people.
Yes. And swearing in novels is another very controversial point. If we have a novel with gratuitous profanity, we will absolutely get emails from readers saying that, they didn't appreciate that. Sometimes they will email us when they've just started the novel, and I will be able to encourage them to keep going, that we chose it for a reason, that this is absolutely true to the character and would be, really missing. But I would say, we try to stay away from, things that have really gratuitous profanity. It seems to be the quickest to offend, more so than, intimate relations or other, more difficult topics that deal with abuse, etc.
That's so interesting that you say that because one, I feel like there's more and more gratuitous bad language in books. Like I am noticing it in so many more books that I read than I used to. But also there have been a variety of conversations about this on Twitter and Facebook and various places recently where, their authors are kind of pushing back a little bit, like, why are people getting upset with bad language? But other people are saying, I don't want all this bad language in my books. It's definitely a controversial topic.
It really is. We did a really cool independent book a few years ago that had a lot of gratuitous language in it. And in the end, people loved it, but some definitely needed to be encouraged to read it. It was very fitting for the character. But our readership and our subscribers have a really big range. We have, sort of teens we have one of my favorite subscribers that I talk to all the time via email is 87. So, everybody's opinion is going to be really different. And your background, where you grew up, how much you hear swearing, what kind of, movies or TV or radio you consume really impacts sort of the overall perception of it more than I thought it would.
That is really interesting. And it definitely seems to tie in with other things I've been seeing recently.
Well, that's good. It's not just us then.
No, for sure it's not. It definitely seems to be a topic that a lot of people are weighing in on recently.
Yes, very interesting. And I think, I've seen lots of trends happen in the last couple of years. I would also say that, the novels that are skyrocketing to the top of the bestseller lists are ones that are providing people with a bit of an escape or are lighter or are scarier. It's interesting what people choose when things are difficult worldwide.
I've definitely found that I have enjoyed reading lighter with everything that's going on, that it's just such a nice escape.
Absolutely. Yes. We've had a few subscribers say that they don't want to read that. And I also think which authors are publishing, during difficult times or the last couple of years specifically. We've seen some of our authors that we sort of saw them on like an every 2 year rotation. We're not seeing new novels coming out right away. So maybe they're taking time to think about what they want to write about.
Or just slowing down a little bit.
Exactly. Yes, as we all should.
So your monthly boxes are only sold through your subscription. And then you have other boxes that you sell separately that are ones that you can just do as a one-off or buy them however many of them you want, but others that are centered around a certain book. Is that right?
That's correct. And we are offering pass boxes from the monthly subscription. So they're totally a surprise if you get them in the monthly subscription. Your novel's a surprise, the items included are a surprise. But we do have some customers that like to wait until the box has been revealed so they know what the novel is and what the items are included. So we are offering pass boxes and we feature them on the buy now section of our page. So you can find Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting on that page that you would have got as a surprise if you were a subscriber in June. So it gives a couple of different options, but we often sell out of our monthly subscriptions, and that's where you would miss out if you waited.
Got it. I was wondering exactly how that worked because it has to be tricky on your numbers to try to make sure you have enough for your subscribers. But then if other people are like, wait a minute, I love Iona Iverson, or that book sounds great, I'd love to order it, that you have a few left over.
Yes, absolutely. I would say that forecasting, if only someone could invent, some way to forecast with accuracy, but I don't think there's any industry that can do that. So yes, we know that there are busier times of the year and slower times of the year. And we know that lots of people give subscriptions as gifts, in the latter half of the year that would continue through to the first of the next year. We find that summer is a little bit different, that people are on holidays, perhaps summer reading, they're just picking up something light. So it really depends on the time of year. But like most industries, we see a bigger number in the latter part of the year and the first part of the next year. And then sort of we build throughout the year. But then I'll say that and, it'll change. So we try to guess based on our number of subscribers and then what we forecast coming in the future.
I'm sure you have to ramp up for the holidays and then anticipate a lot of gift boxes so that January, February, March are also busy times.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's so exciting because I love seeing the emails from, family members or friends that are looking to purchase a subscription for somebody that they love, that loves to read, and they really want them to take that time to themselves. Our line is we're me time delivered, so that it's all together in one box for you. And I don't think there's any better gift than a great book and some time to yourself.
I think that's exactly right. And that's a great way to pitch it because I do think people are focusing more on that as well, that self-care and having some time to yourself and making sure you focus on yourself before you can focus on others is a great thing to do.
Absolutely. And there's nothing better than telling people about a book you just read that you loved. I think that every book lover, that's just such a joy to tell people or to have friends ask you, what's a great book that you've read? That to me are really, key parts of conversation. And, I don't always want to talk about the news, but I'll absolutely talk to you about the book I just read.
Well, I always say that to people that I think books are the greatest connector because I go and speak to groups regularly about books and I'll get seated at a table with people I don't know. And, you're thinking, what do we have in common? What can we talk about? But all you have to say is, what has everybody read recently they really liked? And then the conversation never stops again.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love that everyone can talk about the book that they read and we can all learn from that, regardless of the genre, the type, whatever it is. It is such a great connector.
It is. I love that about it. Kerrie, is there one box in particular that you think has been your most successful?
Oh, that's a hard one to quantify.
Or most popular? I don't know. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, I would say that in terms of our limited edition, our most popular boxes are our Beach Reads box, our Halloween box, and our Christmas box. Those three. We, at the beginning of the year, sell them in a favorites bundle because they are often the favorites. But then the thriller lovers will say to you, no, it's the thrillers that come out 3 times a year that are our favorites. And then we introduce all kinds of new boxes every year to test them out and try them. We did a plant lovers box this year, and that was hugely popular. So, readers love a wide variety of things, and we see that in the choices that they make. In terms of our most popular overall, I would say each subscriber is going to identify with a different box as their favorite. We're sort of looking back at the first 6 months of the year and asking what were their favorite items to receive, which novels were their favorite. And it's a really great, varied response.
So do you poll them? Do you send out surveys and ask that to get a sense for what people really responded to?
Absolutely. And we run a private Facebook group that we accept any members that have purchased from Sweet Reads Box. And in that group, we do a lot of polling of our customers. So that group gets a lot of, opportunity for feedback. And we also hear from them about what they're loving in the boxes and maybe what they aren't liking as much. We get great feedback from people. I love getting feedback. I would so much rather that people, send me an email or post in the Facebook group so that I know. But also, what I love about that group is that everyone's tastes are so different. So, what one person will say was their favorite box this year, somebody will say, oh, I didn't love that book as much. Overall, our subscribers, I think, really identify with the choices that we make. And it's finding a balance between really popular books and also books that maybe people haven't heard from as much.
Well, I always do love discovering a book that isn't so popular, kind of that hidden gem under the radar book. And so it probably is a balance between those and then some like Lessons in Chemistry that eventually everyone's going to want to read. So you have to kind of decide, how can we balance that? And I love the idea of the Facebook group for another reason too, because say I read a book and I'm like, I didn't love that. Why'd they pick it? But then I get on the Facebook group and all these other people are raving about it. It kind of gives me a sense that maybe I'm an outlier or that so many different people are receiving the same box and you have to balance it all.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that most people really understand that. And I think that it's just a great opportunity and a vehicle for feedback. We also send out formal surveys a couple times a year as well, with incentives to fill it out, contests to win, subscriptions, etc. But I find the sort of immediate feedback really helpful for me.
I can see that. Well, there are a lot of monthly book box subscriptions. What sets you apart?
Absolutely. What sets Sweet Reads apart is that our boxes are curated entirely around the novel. So the items that are in the box are connected to the setting, the characters, details in the novel, etc. And they're a surprise. So you're not choosing your novel before it comes. It's sort of like that opportunity to ask your favorite book lover or librarian or, just book person what books they love reading and what they'd recommend. So they're getting a novel that we have read, and often a few of us have read and made a decision that this is a book we think people should read and will enjoy. So it makes us really unique that it's a surprise, that everything is carefully curated to the novel, and that we have custom goods that aren't available other places. If you love an item, we have extras of them often on our merch store so people can, order additional snacks that they loved or an item that they loved from the box, but you can't get them other places. Now, other items we order from a variety of different businesses, and so they could find them other places, but it's about that whole experience.
Well, and people seem to love book box subscriptions. I mean, I see so many unboxings all the time, and I see yours a fair amount. In fact, one of my patrons, Susan McDonald, loves yours and posts about it regularly. And that's how I first heard about it. And then I was so happy that you and I connected up because she has great taste. And so I thought it was really fun to get to experience my own. And it's just beautiful what you all have done.
Oh, thank you. We really want it to be an experience and a really special experience. And that true gift to yourself or to, a friend or family member, it's a really fun box to receive. I'm thrilled. We pack the boxes. Obviously, we started packing in our basement, but we've moved on from there, thankfully. And we, get a box shipped to us. And so I get the experience of opening it up and get really excited about it, even though I know what's inside. But it's just so special to open up a box and have that joy. We also really focus on consumable items and useful items so that it's not just a whole bunch of things in a box. And I don't understand boxes where you pick every item yourself. That is just not something I would enjoy because, I could do that by online ordering. That just seems not like a unique experience. It just feels like I ordered a bunch of things and put them in a box.
Well, and back to your idea of the consumable things, to me, that is so nice because my daughter gets a YA box and it's always all these random things like bowls and all these things that we have to then find a place to put. And so I love the idea that you're going to eat it or, a koozie was in my rules for commuting box. I will use that to keep my drink cold, but it's things that I'm either going to use or I will eat and they will go away. And so it's just nice because I think everybody's kind of tired of having stuff piling up.
Absolutely. Yes, we all feel that way. And I think the other thing is that if there's an item you won't particularly use, we know that our subscribers will gift them to somebody else. Or we hear a lot of subscribers that open their box and get the treat out of there as quickly as they can so that they don't have to share with family members. So I think that excitement of knowing you're going to get, a coffee, tea, hot chocolate, or cold drink, and then you're going to get a sweet that you're going to enjoy with the box. We do some salty snacks, but Sweet Reads does indicate that there will be a sweet in there.
And that's a good mix, the sweet and the salty.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That would be my dream mix every time.
Exactly. Well, what's next for Sweet Reads box?
Well, right now we're gearing up. We're just Christmas box is out. We are gearing up towards the last part of the year and gifting season. But we have a really exciting new option that's going to be released in the next week. So we're going to offer a new subscription option that is still under wraps, but by the time this publishes, will be out there in the world and looking forward to what their feedback is about that. So what's next? You never know. There's so many possibilities for different boxes and so many opportunities to showcase novels and authors, and really excited about, seeing what comes forward in publishing and in the novels that are being released.
And where can people find you?
Absolutely. So our URL is sweetreadsbox.com. It will prompt you if you're entering from the US or Canada, if you're on the wrong URL for the country, to switch. And Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all of those places. And we just love sharing, and especially sharing our reader unboxings and commentary. So I just absolutely love seeing beautiful photos of the boxes and how people are enjoying or using the items.
Great. Well, that is just wonderful. And before we wrap up, I would love to hear what you have read recently that you really liked.
Absolutely. So one of my interests and favorite areas of novels or reading is Indigenous authors. And that's something that I have had an interest in for, many years. I just read a great new novel by Billy Ray Belcourt called A Minor Chorus, and such a great perspective, a really unique novel and something that I haven't read before. And one of my favorite ones of all time to recommend is called Five Little Indians by Michelle Good, about the residential schools in Canada and the treatment of Indigenous students within those. Other than that, I've read some pretty great Christmas novels on sort of a lighter side as we work towards choosing our Christmas box novel. So always fun to read those in the summertime.
I know, it's so funny. It's like you talked about reading beach reads in January and then reading holiday reads in June. So it always seems backwards. And I always have a little trouble with reading so far ahead because then somebody will say to me, well, what have you read recently that you really liked? And most of what I'm reading comes out like 3 to 5 months ahead. So I have to kind of get my brain to what has come out recently versus what I've read recently.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I also can't give away what our upcoming boxes are. So I absolutely know that those are great novels that I've read. And there's so many. I just absolutely love the chance to read novels ahead of time too. It's exciting to get to read them in those sort of really early formats. We used to get just advanced reading copy books, but now we get bound manuscripts more often to get them earlier so that we have a chance to read them.
And I bet publishers are thrilled to pieces when they get your emails or your calls saying, we'd love to pick such and such book for December.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And more we're seeing authors and publicists also sort of understanding that that's really fun to receive. And like I said, the custom items around it are really exciting to our readers as well as, the publishers and authors. Very different than just purchasing a book that comes in a box.
Absolutely. Well, Kerrie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and coming on the Thoughts from a Page podcast.
Thank you so much. Absolutely love this podcast and really excited to see if you'll be interviewing some of our upcoming authors as well.
I know. I can't wait to see what your fall boxes are and see how much we match up.
Exactly. It's great.
Science, science, science! Science, science! Hello, podcast fans. Want to get weird with us? Come check out the Mad Scientist Podcast. We're a weekly show that looks at the history, philosophy, and hard facts behind your biggest paranormal questions.
Did the government really pay for a psychic spy program?
Yes!
Is it true that surgery got its start in grave robbing?
Yes!
Can a roller coaster really kill you?
Legally, we can't say so for sure, but sometimes, yes! Join myself, Chris Cogswell, and my co-host, Marie Mayhew, as we examine the science, philosophy, and history behind the strange and unusual. All to discover what's possible and plausible versus what's, well, just made up. Check us out wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mad Scientist Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate your taking the time to listen to my podcast. I want to quickly share about this wonderful company I am now partnering with. I am always looking for entities that promote and highlight books, and recently came across Book Clubs, a company who provides all sorts of resources for established and new book clubs, as well as individual readers. My own personal book club recently signed up on Book Clubs, and the group has been impressed with all of the great tools the site and app provide. The Book Club's website is linked in my show notes, and I hope you will check them out soon. Also, if you like my show, I would be so grateful if you would tell everyone you know about it and rate it on whichever platform you listen on. It truly makes a huge difference and really helps the show grow. I hope you will check out some other Thoughts from a Page episodes and have a great day.
Hear Her Sports is a podcast for everyone who loves stories by and about women striving to improve and make a difference in their lives. I am your host, Elizabeth Emery, a former professional cyclist. In every episode, I introduce a female athlete or woman in the business of sport through a thoughtful conversation about who they are and the terrific work they're doing. My guests and I explore the glorious and frustrating issues in sports, history, equity, training, nutrition, and so much more. Join us for inspiration, for community, and for love of being a strong, athletic woman.